Welcome everybody. Thank you very much for coming to tonight's talk and welcome to the Jungshim Center. My name is Emily. I'm one of the energy practitioners here. I've been working with energy for almost 20 years now, and I'm looking forward to share some of my experiences with you this evening and tell you a bit more about how you can change inherited patterns, which is what tonight's talk is about. So, this Jungshim Center is an energy practice from South Korea, and we give energy treatments and we run classes and we help people to change the patterns, energy patterns that are passed down from many generations that affect our life now. And I think most people understand the impact that our mind, our state of mind, our ways of thinking has on our well-being. I think that's quite well understood, but it's much less understood the kind of impact that the energy patterns and emotional patterns that pass down through the generations actually have on our life now, on our well-being, on our relationships. And so that changing inherited patterns is one of the most important things that we need to work on in our life today. How many of you have been to the center before? Most, kind of half. Okay, so this center is all about energy. Energy is not something you can see. It's intangible, it's invisible. I think for a lot of people in the Western world, it's questionable. But this center is all about energy, and this room, I don't know how sensitive you are, is full of energy. The energy, you can't see it, but if your mind is peaceful, you can feel the vibration, and there's a very, very peaceful vibration in this room. So I expect you've all had a very, very busy day, so I'm going to ask you first to just uncross your legs and put your notebooks or your phones or your bags down, and then put your hands on your knees and relax your shoulders, and close your eyes. And now, so if you can put yourself present into the room, and then put your problems aside, and put your worries aside, and then breathe in deeply, and breathe out slowly. And just sit quietly here for a few moments. Okay, you can open your eyes. Hard to believe we're at Oxford Circus, isn't it? It's quite nice to stay like this for the rest of the evening. Life is so busy, sometimes just to sit quietly, there's no opportunity to sit quietly. So I'm going to talk to you about ancestor healing. It's a very spiritual practice that we offer here. It's a really profound and deep process. I would say it's a transformational process, and it's a way to clear the karma we pass on to the next generation. It's about changing the energy and emotional patterns that people create in their life, and they pass on to their children, who pass on to their children, and pass on to their children. But to understand ancestor healing, then you really need to understand how energy works. You also need to understand how the body, mind, and spirit are connected in our life, but also how they're connected after we leave our physical life behind. And also when we talk about ancestor healing, it's bringing up the question of what happens after we leave our physical life behind, what happens after death. So quite big subjects that we're going to cover tonight in quite a short time. So I'm going to start kind of simply. I'm going to explain a bit about the Jongshim Energy Program and about energy, and I'm going to explain how energy works first of all. So at Jongshim, we offer 3 services that help you recharge with energy and help you open your heart and regain your kind of good-hearted, compassionate nature so that you can be healthy and happy. Energy treatments. How many of you have had a treatment? Quite a lot. Energy classes and energy clearing. And this is our main subject tonight. So energy treatments that we offer here use acupressure. For those of you who haven't had one, we use acupressure to open the energy meridians in the body and release all the tension and stress and knots that build up. And we use a breathing technique, vibration. You're going to hear a lot about vibration this evening. We use sound or a breathing technique to transmit energy or chi into the body. So the energy treatments give you energy and help you to break down the energy blockages and tension and stress that builds up in the body. They're fantastic if you've got back, shoulder or neck pain, digestive issues, insomnia, anxiety, migraines, symptoms like that. And we can help you to a certain level release the blockages that have built up. Then we come to energy classes. The classes that we offer here are self-healing program. They help you to harmonize your own mind and body. Because with the treatments, when we give energy to you, you don't really change yourself. So we can only get you to a certain level unless you're going to look at the mind more deeply. So the classes help you to harmonize the body, mind, and spirit and work on the emotional patterns. And they're a combination of chanting, vibration again, to receive the certain balanced state of energy, gentle movements to open up all the energy meridians, and meditation. And our meditation practice is focused on 2 parts. One is gratitude and one is reflection. I'm going to explain a bit more about that during the evening. And the third one, of course, is the energy clearing. Energy clearing is changing the patterns from the past, changing the history of our ancestors and all the people that have created our life and the energy and emotional patterns that pass down through each generation. And there are layers and layers and layers and layers that we have to work on and release. And just to mention, another part of the energy clearing is changing the energy or vibration where you live or where you work. Because in the places where we live, other people have lived there before, and their energy history builds up in places also. So we're not just affected by the energy history of our family, but we're affected by the history of places, the homes or our workplaces. So they're our program. And when people come to us, we tend to guide them to do 1, 2, or all 3. And you can make a program that uses a mixture of these to support your well-being. So energy. Has everyone heard of qi or qi? So qi is the Chinese word for energy, and qi is the Korean or Japanese pronunciation, and this is a Korean practice. So literally it translates as energy, and this is the character that means energy. But what is energy? Energy is light and vibration. And this is very important to remember all through the talk. There are many, many different types of energy. There's many different types of energy as there are different types of food. Basically, energy is vibration. In the East, the highest form of energy is ki, or chi. It's the life force in the universe and the life force within ourselves. The chi that we have in our body is what keeps us alive. It's what supports our lungs to breathe in and out, supports all the circulation and movement and harmony in the body. And in the universe, it's the same. The vibration of the chi, or the most balanced energy, is guiding all the movement in the universe. So the seasons, night and day, everything's always moving. That's why vibration's very important. Everything is alive. If we are alive, the universe is alive, and everything is following a vibration. So this is energy. So to explain a little more, this is representing the invisible world and the physical material world. So the circle represents energy, or represents ki. If you are religious, then this represents truth, or light, or God. This is the most harmonious shape, and is representing the static and complete state of energy in the invisible world. So if any of you are a Buddhist, or the Buddhists often talk about nothingness or emptiness. So this is the state of stillness, nothingness, emptiness. But it's actually the state that contains everything. When there's a nothing, you can contain everything. This is quite a deep philosophy, but this is the state of ki or chi. And if this is the invisible spiritual world, this is the physical material. So our physical material world is split into two types of energy, yin and yang. Everybody, I think, has heard of yin and yang, yes? So yin and yang are the opposite energies, and those two energies are always trying to create harmony. So you recognize the Tai Chi symbol, and I've put the spirit, mind, and body here. The spirit and body are an example of yin and yang trying to make harmony to create the state of oneness or completion, which is the state of the spiritual or invisible world. But everything in the physical world exists as, well, you can see the beautiful picture behind me, the sun and the moon, the mountains and water, night and day, hot and cold. Everything has its opposite, and everything's trying to create balance and harmony. And even in the physical body, your heart and kidneys, for example, are opposites. They support the fire and water energy. And then you have all the muscles have an opposite. One muscle pulls one way, one muscle pulls another way. All the physical world is built on the law of nature, which is yin and yang. So life is made up of our spirit, mind, and body. And our spirit is the invisible part of ourselves, the less understood part of ourselves. And the spirit comes from the invisible world, from light or truth. And our physical body is given to us by our parents. So we inherit their DNA, and we have all their genetic pattern. And the mind, if you look here, when we talk about vibration, the mind, if you keep it going, is actually a wave. It's the link between your spirit and body, and it has a very, very, very important role during our life, and it has an even more important role after we leave our physical life behind, which I'm going to come to. So the mind is the link between our spirit or body, and the mind is the part that belongs to us. And it's very important. I think everybody understands the impact the mind has on our physical health. So we all know if you have a positive mind and you're open-hearted and considerate and compassionate, then that has a positive influence on your well-being. And when you're stressed, then you create tension in the body. And when you're repeatedly stressed, then we can build up layers of deep tension, or repeatedly emotional in a negative way. We build up, a lot of blockages and tension in the body that can affect our health. And there's been a lot of research to show that people with chronic illnesses, or even terminal illnesses, long-term illnesses, how powerful the mind is to change the direction of someone's illness or health. So we do know that. Less understood is the impact the mind has on our spirit. During our life, the mind has the power to make our body healthy or unhealthy. It also has the power to brighten or darken our spirit. And when we are talking about the energetic, eternal state of our ancestors and our family and what happens to energy after death, this is very, very important. Okay, the three main energy centers. So everything's about three. Everything is connected to either our spirit, mind, or body. So in the physical body, the third eye, or the crown chakra, if you drill a hole, that's the spiritual energy center. That energy center, if it's open properly, connects you to the source of life, to the original key, to the universe, original wisdom, truth, etc. This energy center has to be open. It connects us to everybody around us and our environment. The central energy center, which is in the center of the chest, is the energy center connected to our heart and our emotions and our mind. And then the physical energy center is just beneath the navel, and this is a very important energy center for our physical well-being. In Korean, it's called the danjan. If you've ever done martial arts, you might have heard the word dantian, which is the Chinese word. But this energy center is where all the physical chi, original chi, our life force is stored. And for those of you who've had an energy treatment, you notice we always start the treatment here. We check how much energy do you have, how much energy were you born with, how much energy have you used up so far. And this is all the chi from here pumps energy in the same way as your heart pumps blood. It pumps energy around all the many energy meridians in the body to support all our organs and cells and muscles and joints. Those are three important energy centers, but we have many energy channels and we have many energy pores on the surface of our skin. So these 2 hours I'm trying to explain here the law of nature and how energy should flow. Firstly, this is the law of nature. This is modern life, quite opposite. The law of nature, what this means is our spirit, our spiritual energy center, we have to be spiritually awake. We have to be connected. Our spirit should be open to receive the original light in the universe and wisdom, and our spiritual senses need to be switched on. When this energy center is open, we receive the light and wisdom, and we are full of brightness and positivity. And then energy flows from our spirit down to the energy center of the mind. When your spirit is awake, it's very, very easy to open your heart. It makes the mind positive. And when your spirit, the light from the spirit comes down to the mind, you think about others, you are giving, you are forgiving, you are compassionate, you are open-hearted, and you can embrace others and you can accept others. And then from there we are connected to ourselves, connected to one another, and we feel happy. The spirit supports the mind to be happy. And then with happiness, energy can flow down to the physical body, and then there's a natural circulation, positive circulation and flow of energy in the body. Those of you who've done much Eastern kind of therapy, like acupuncture, it's the two things for good health. In Eastern medicine, we don't really look at different diseases or problems. We look at whether you have enough energy and whether energy circulates properly in the body. So when your spirit is awake, when your mind is happy, then energy flows smoothly in the body. You feel peaceful and you feel energized and you feel healthy. And that's the law of nature. And we are meant to be connected to our environment. We are meant to be connected to all people and all things in a very comfortable, peaceful way. So this is modern life. And we are so far, and we are so disconnected. We are so far from the law of nature that we don't realize how far we are. What this means is the mind is almost these days 100% influenced by the physical world and the material world. And we've developed our physical senses so much, and we haven't developed our spiritual senses at all. So what's happening on a physical level is affecting us emotionally all the time. What that means is, if you see something, you make an instant judgment. And you hear something, and you're upset or you're hurt. And our mind is constantly changing according to what we hear, see, touch, feel. It's constantly changing. The amount of emotions and judgments and feelings you have, negative feelings in one day, is quite extraordinary. So our mind is so unstable. And because of that, we try to protect ourselves, and we close our heart. And when we close our heart, we're disconnected from other people, and we're actually disconnected from ourselves. And then we have so many insecurities and so many fears and so many worries because we're constantly affected by what's happening around us physically. And when this is happening, we don't even know we have a spirit at that point. Our spiritual energy center is closed. And then in modern life, we are wondering, what's the meaning of life? Is there only a physical life? Is there a God? We don't know what is true, what is not true, because we don't have any connection to our spirit anymore. And even when we are trying to live a spiritual life, the energy and vibration of cities and society stimulates our emotional responses to the physical world much more than it stimulates our spiritual responses. People have lots of energy blockages and lots of problems, and they come to us because they're short of energy generally. I'm sure most people these days are short of energy or don't feel they have enough energy. So if we ignore the first two, people think, energy, that's a good idea. I'll go there, see if I can get some energy. And we give them energy, and most people feel better after receiving energy, after receiving an energy treatment. And we open some of their blockages, and we recharge you with energy to a certain point. And then you go back to your daily life and you lose energy and you get stressed and you create more blockages. And then you come back, I need some more energy. So we give you some more energy. And then this cycle continues. And then we start to explain, look, the mind has an impact on your energy circulation. And so then people start to try to look at their mind, look at their emotional patterns, what they need to change in their daily life. But as I've just explained, you can work on the mind, but the mind is supported by our spirit. So unless your spirit is awake, it's hard to be in control of your mind and for your mind to support energy. The mind 100% influences the circulation of energy in our body and the circulation of energy in our life and around us. So when you come here, our classes help you to open the energy centers in the right order, to open the energy center, the spirit, awaken the spirit, receive the balanced chi, original chi, which supports us to balance and harmonize our mind and clear negative emotions and patterns. And then the mind supports the circulation of energy in our physical body. And energy supports, sorry if you can't see at the back, energy supports our blood circulation. And our blood carries all the oxygen and nutrition to all our organs and cells. So to be healthy, you have to be spiritual. This is the law of nature. We don't just have a physical body. Energy blockages. We do all have energy blockages. There is nobody that doesn't have energy blockages. Because life is so busy and life is so complicated and we have so many things going on and so many thoughts and so we're dealing with so many things. So there are 3 types of energy blockages that we create in our body. 3 again, body, mind and spirit. Physical energy blockages, emotional energy blockages, and the blockages we inherit from our family and ancestors. Physical lifestyle, we have many environmental problems. A lot of our world is polluted now. Our food is polluted, there are a lot of chemicals, our water is polluted, our air is polluted, Our body is actually very, very strong. We actually digest and cope with an awful amount of things thrown at it. But physically, it's hard not to be affected by what's going on in our environment. At the same time, we do make decisions about our own lifestyle, and there's things that you can change. If you smoke, then of course that's going to affect you. If you don't eat well, if you don't sleep well, if you don't exercise, we all know the physical things we need to improve and what we can improve. So physical lifestyle, I'm going to leave it to you today. We know the things we need to work on. And I'm going to talk more about the emotional patterns and also the inherited patterns. Inherited patterns are the emotions of our ancestors and our family, the vibrations and emotions and memories and things that have happened in their lives. So emotionally, we know when we're positive and when we are happy and when we are thinking of others and when we give, then we feel good. We feel good about ourselves and we attract better people into our life and we attract better circumstances. At the same time, when we are negative and we are critical and we're judgmental and we're hateful and we're angry, then we create a kind of so much tension and unhappiness. And then when you create that vibration, nobody really wants to be around you, or you attract people who also want to be negative. And we create our own life from our state of mind. And the same for our family history. And actually, when you think about emotions, if you remember something from 20 years ago, a big event or something that happened, you have the same response. Sometimes you still feel fearful, or you feel guilty, or you still feel angry. And when I mentioned before in our classes, we do reflection meditation, it's good to think back to all the things that you're still holding. Because emotionally, we're quite complicated. We push many, many things deep down in our system that we don't remember on a daily basis, so we think they've gone. But they hold a certain vibration and they are influencing our energy all the time. So we have layers and layers and layers like an onion. It's the energy history and vibration and emotional patterns of our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents and going back and back. And when we give treatments, we can feel the different type of blockages and the different vibrations that you're holding. And we often recommend, if you haven't been here before, the first step is good to have an energy treatment and energy assessment, because then we can see the type of blockages that you have. But everybody has all three. It's just in different levels. And emotional blockages, when you're going through something very difficult and stressful, at that point you have so much tension in the body and you drain so much energy. But when that time passes, of course your body starts to recover and regain its strength again. But a lot of things, they just layer up, and then the patterns that we create, without knowing, we keep attracting those situations into our life again, 10 years later. And we wonder, why is that happening again? Why have I got someone who seemed different, was exactly the same as the last man I met 10 years ago, because we're attracting that vibration. So to talk about vibration, nature has the most balanced vibration. It's like the wave of the mind I was showing you at the beginning. We long to go into nature. Everybody loves nature because we want to feel that feeling. That actually brings us closer to our spirit, to the source. It reminds us how we should feel. So we go to nature to feel that, but it doesn't help us necessarily to change what's going on inside ourselves. So in terms of vibration, if you're angry and stressed all the time, you tend to have a very fast vibration. And if you work with people who are angry and stressed, it's quite uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable office. And if you're depressed, you tend to have a very, very sluggish vibration. It's very, very hard to get yourself moving and to motivate yourself. And the energy circulation in the body then becomes very, very sluggish, and you can put on weight and things like that. Everything is connected to vibration. So I'm sure as I'm talking, you're recognizing, certain characteristics or things that you have. But the mind is very complicated. We don't just have one vibration. And it's changing daily. We're all over the place. We have layers and layers and layers of different vibrations. It's like the sea. The surface of the sea is changing according to the weather, the daily weather. But underneath, we've stored many, many, many things in our mind. So I don't know if you know the experiments that were done by the Japanese scientists on water. Yeah. So they're really amazing to understand vibration and understand the mind. So it started with a group of scientists taking water from different rivers and freezing the water and looking at the crystals to look at the difference between the kind of polluted rivers and the clean rivers. And the crystals of a very pure water, like a beautiful kind of snowflake, really symmetrical, really pretty. We have a book outside, you can have a look after. And then they started doing these amazing experiments where they would say words or play music in lots of different languages over the water before freezing the water and looking at the crystals. And they did obviously things like love and hate, and they played classical music and heavy metal. I'm not saying that heavy metal is bad, but they did all kinds of vibrations. And all the positive messages in any language created really beautiful crystals. You have a look at the book. But when something was negative, there was things like do it and let's do it. It has a different energy. When something was negative, and especially when it was very negative, it didn't even look like a crystal. The shape was distorted, it lost its symmetry and it lost its beauty. And also the polluted rivers were like that. The reason I'm bringing up this experiment is to really understand the impact our mind has, because we are 70% water. We are creating vibration all the time and layers of it. So that you can imagine your cells are 70% water. We have a lot of serious illnesses that happen when the cells change their vibration or change their state. So our mind is really responsible for the vibration of the water in our body. So if you are positive, and it comes back to the research that's been done to show that people's positive mindset does have a huge impact on changing the direction of someone's health. So we have to think about how we're thinking and what we're holding to what vibration we're creating. But I take that a step further. The people around you are also 70% water. And the earth is 70% water. We are not individual. We are connected to everything. It's not food, it's not water, it's not air, it's energy. Energy is more polluted than anything else because of the state of our mind. And the vibration that we create is actually affecting the energy everywhere. I've worked with energy for a very long time. I used to have a lot of health problems, which is how I started this practice. And I've traveled all over the world. And it's very, very hard to find somewhere, even in nature, when energy is still clear. There's a vibration everywhere according to what's happened, especially where there's been a lot of war or battle or trouble. Then of course that energy lingers for a very long time. So our thoughts affect ourselves, our thoughts affect others, and our thoughts affect the world. And the thoughts create a certain vibration. Your words create a stronger vibration. Your actions create an even stronger vibration. And this is, you're getting the picture, I think, about the mind. So I'm going to come back to life, and I'm going to introduce death. So we talked about the power of the mind on the physical body and on our physical well-being. I think you can understand that now. So now you have to understand the power of the mind to influence our spirit, which we're not even aware a lot of the time exists. But when someone's happy and healthy and positive, I keep coming back to this, they tend to look bright. We make a lot of judgments on people just by looking at them. And without just seeing the physical side, we do judge on energy. So when someone is good-hearted and kind, you tend to know by looking at them. Because when you are your energy is coming out, when you care about others and you're giving, then your spirit shines and your eyes are bright and you're clear. And so during our physical life, we are changing the brightness of our spirit according to what we do for others. And then at the same time, when we are selfish, when we hate other people, when we're angry, when we're worried, when we're fearful, when we're cynical, when we're judgmental, then we actually cloud our spirit. We make our spirit darker. And when you're around someone who's got a negative feeling, you feel there's something not clear about them. We don't know what we're doing to our spirit, but we're going to take our spirit with us after we leave our physical body behind. So, what is death? Death is just a separation of the body and spirit. Everything is energy, everything is eternal. And, in terms of what Einstein said, energy just changes its form. It doesn't disappear, nothing disappears. So the physical body is energy. But after we leave the physical body behind, it doesn't belong to us anymore. It belongs to the earth, belongs to nature, recycled by the nature back to all the elements. And if you've ever been with a loved one when they're leaving this world, when they pass away, you feel the moment that the consciousness leaves the body. And you know that the body is not that person. But during our life, we go back to the diagram that talks about how the body influences the mind. We are so attached to who we think we are physically that actually when you leave the body, you don't know how to deal with your mind and spirit. So the body goes back to the earth. The spirit is meant to be with the universe, with this vibration. If you're religious, goes back to God. But after death, you are exactly the same as you were during your life. We always want to think, or there's nobody that doesn't want to think that after death there's peace, that our family is in a better place and more peaceful, more happy. But there's no difference between life and death. You just take the physical body off, but your spirit and mind, you've already created their vibration during your lifetime. So nothing disappears. And the mind is connected to the spirit after death, and it changes the vibration of the spirit after death. So normally, we can't go anywhere when we leave the physical body behind, because the vibration we have matches the world and the life that we left behind. And that's what we're attached to and what we're connected to. I'm going to make you think a little bit. If you were going to die tomorrow, what have you done that you would be happy to leave your next generation? What vibration do you think is positive within yourself? Have you done a lot for others? Do you have a lot of kindness? Do you have a lot of compassion? You will all have something. Just to think about it for a moment. And then if you were going to die tomorrow, what wouldn't you want to leave? Your children, your siblings, your family, your friends. What are you still holding that you don't want to leave that vibration behind? What haven't you resolved? What anger, what fear, what guilt, what regret would you have if you leave your physical body behind tomorrow? The good news is you're probably not going to die tomorrow. So if you think of something, then this is the time, whilst you have a physical body, you have to change what you're holding. We shouldn't take anything with us. Sorry, this one's a bit small. The first word is karma. The second word, I don't think anyone will have heard of, is gongdak. This is basically bad karma, good karma. In our philosophy, we believe you take two things with you after your physical death. You don't take anything material. You take what you've done for others. because what you do for others creates the vibration that brightens the spirit. And everything you do, you don't have to do something huge for humanity. You have to do small things daily for the people around you and the world around you. And those small things that you give pile up and pile up and pile up, and your spirit is reaching the universe, reaching heaven. So that when you die, your spirit is as light as a feather, into being part of that light, part of that vibration. Second thing you take is your wisdom, spiritual wisdom. How awake is your spirit? From my understanding, and I've worked with energy for a long time, and I might be wrong, but you don't know anything about what the meaning of life is after death that you didn't learn during your life. We think we'll figure it out when we leave our physical body behind. But when you leave your physical body, nothing changes. You are the same person, with the same shape and the same opinions. You know, in a spiritual development with our physical life, we are meant to make our mind as big as the universe as a physical life goes on. We are microcosmos. If your mind can only contain your physical body and yourself, then that's how small you are after death. We are meant to contain the whole world. We match the cosmos exactly, like I talked about water. The earth is 70% water, we are 70% water. The eyes of the sun and moon, everything matches if you know a bit about Eastern philosophy. So our mind has to be light. We have to know the meaning of life before we leave our physical life behind. This is a gongdak. But we create a lot of karma. We create karma from everything that we're holding and from things that we've done to hurt ourselves, hurt others, or hurt people in this world. But we have to reflect on everything, clear everything, make peace with everything. And so when we talk about ancestor healing, I asked you to think about what you'd like to leave behind. If you think about all your family members and your friends, if they were all your ancestors, how would you feel about them being around you energetically? I'm sure you love them. But you know, everybody's holding something. Most of your ancestors you don't know. You know, I'm sure that many of you came to this talk tonight thinking about how to heal the emotions created from your relationships with your parents and your family. Because of course our upbringing and our relationships create so much pain and problems if they haven't been healthy. And the childhood that we've had can either help us to flourish, or it can create so many insecurities and instabilities because of the foundation that we've built our life on. But the ancestor healing I'm talking about is going back through the generations that you don't even know. You don't know the emotions they had. I mean, in the last 100 years, we've had 2 world wars, and a lot of our ancestors were involved in that, and a lot of our ancestors died. We know it certainly in Western culture, 50, 60, 70 years ago, people didn't express themselves in the same way as they do today. They often had to hide all the feelings they had. So often our grandparents and great-grandparents and their great aunts and uncles, they pass away with all the hidden trauma that they couldn't deal with during their life. Ancestor healing is a practice to change the energy and emotional patterns of those who've passed away, whose spirit is not bright enough. It's also a practice to respect and love your family. It's not all about heaviness. Some people die in a very bright and peaceful state, but the type of life, type of death are both important. But ancestor healing is to change the energy of those who are still struggling. Something like addictions it often runs through many generations and keeps passing down through the generations. It's something that's come up that I've noticed speaking to people about their ancestors over and over again. It's very, very common. And I just want to give you an example about energy. You know, energy never dies. We have a physical body and we live in a physical material, but we live in a really spiritual universe. And the visible and invisible are just two sides of the coin. And whether you can see it, whether you believe it, there is energy everywhere. And energy is very, very polluted. Energy in houses holds the history and energy of our ancestors. So, it's easy to understand about houses. You go to an old house, whether you know anything about energy or not, you feel the atmosphere, you feel the feeling in the walls and the furniture. You know a lot of things have happened there and are still there. That feeling's still there. People were exactly the same. The energy of our ancestors is still with us. So when we take something like addictions, say the grandfather has been an alcoholic for 30 years and he passes away. And then he's passed away, and maybe that was quite heavy for the family, so it's a bit lighter emotionally and practically for the next generation. However, he's just left his physical body behind. His way of thinking is still the same. His vibration, the energy he's created in a certain space is still the same. So then say the grandson has a very stressful, busy job. And to cope with the stress at work, he starts having a drink every night. As he uses alcohol to cope with stress, his vibration becomes more similar to his grandfather. And already there's a family vibration. So the grandfather's spirit and energy can connect to him. Without knowing, he starts to pick up the thought patterns and emotions and feelings and desires from the grandfather. But it's through his body and mind, so we don't know. We have no spiritual consciousness these days, so we don't know it's not us. And then the grandson starts to have more and more problems with alcohol, eventually becomes an alcoholic. Is it the grandson's addiction? Is it the grandfather's addiction? It's kind of both. Because even if you do ancestor healing and you help the grandfather to clear the vibration and emotions and energy pattern that he had during his life and is carrying after death, then you still have the mind pattern that's created for the grandson. So we have to work on our body, mind and spirit. But the foundation is what's been given to us by our ancestors, comes to the family tree. We have many, many ancestors, and the invisible world is very, very busy. But for a tree to bear good fruit and to flourish and to produce beautiful flowers and blossom and everything else, everything's coming from the root. The root's invisible. Human beings are the same. You are individual. You make your own choices and you are responsible for your own life. But you build your life on the physical and emotional patterns that have passed down from the ancestors. So how healthy the root is affects your life and your good luck and your fortune and your potential. It's a foundation. So I advise a lot of my clients come with different problems. And often you have many different physical problems. You've got back pain and sometimes you get headaches and you've got this emotional thing, and there are so many things that people are carrying these days. And you can see a therapist for one part and you can change something in your lifestyle for another. But if you focus on all the things bit by bit by bit, it's hard to change yourself. First, you have to take the kind of bigger picture. We are a product of our ancestors' lives. We have their DNA. We are physically imprinted with all their energy history and how they lived their lives. We have to clear the patterns from the past and create a better foundation. Then it's much easier to work on your own mind and body. And in terms of karma, just to explain a bit more, there are two types of karma. You are physically created by your parents, and we have their eye color and their face shape, and we're born with strengths and weaknesses and talents. And on a physical level, it's quite hard to change what you're born with. So you may be born with a certain talent that you are a natural long-distance runner, for example. But really, you'd like to play football. So you can learn to play football and you can practice and practice and practice, but naturally, from what you've been given by your parents, you're a better runner, for example. So this is not, very serious things, but physically we are born with certain things, and sometimes we have certain, genetic physical weaknesses and things. It's very, very hard to change the things that are physical. But what ancestor healing is when someone dies, they still live on. And we are still connected. And ancestor healing is changing the energy of those who've passed away, who are still around us. It's outside time and space, but energy is everywhere, like old buildings, like I said. And according to your own personality and sensitivity and character, different ancestors with the different siblings, but we're always connected to the invisible world. So ancestor healing is helping those who've passed away to be happier. We always want to help our family and friends that we can see, but ancestor healing is helping those that we can't see, but they have a massive impact on your life. And I think before I mentioned about the idea of the office. You go into an office where everybody's stressed. Even if you're positive, it's bothering you, every day. It has an impact on you. You are carrying the weight of your ancestors. It does affect you. Many people, one of the things they say after ancestor healing is they have incredible clarity. That a lot of negative thoughts or repetitive thoughts they thought were their own disappear. That's one of the most common things, is the mental change, because we are actually picking up the vibration of other people without knowing it. So ancestor healing, changing those around us, and helping all our family members to be in a peaceful place. The idea of the spirit, especially in Western culture, is quite scary. We don't want to. Number one, we want to think we're individual and we're completely in charge of our own life, which we are, but we have to understand the connection we have with others. But this world is very, very busy. Ancestor healing is, as I said, it's a very spiritual process, and it takes 3 weeks. And it works with chanting, vibration. We use sound to change the energy of those who passed away. And also ceremonies. I'm going to show you a picture. This is a ceremony. We have ceremonies like this about 3 times a week in this center. So ceremony is a scary word in a Western world, but ceremony is the foundation of almost every single culture. Life started with ceremonies because we are a visible and invisible world living together. And ancient people used to respect the source of life, respect nature, respect the earth, respect their family with a ceremony. A ceremony is a preparation of food and flowers and fruit, offerings of the heart. If this is a South Korean practice, if you go to South Korea on Chinese New Year, all the children go home to their family, their main hometown, and the family set up a little table with fruit and rice cakes, and everyone makes a bow and remembers their ancestors. But many cultures start with ceremonies. Originally, it was all the farmers who had ceremonies because they were working with nature. So, it's a bit like the harvest festival, but after you harvest, the farmers would gather the best of every product and offer it back to the universe with gratitude. And that's what a ceremony was. And then they would have a ceremony before planting all the seeds to understand and respect that there's a harmony between the visible and invisible world. So ceremony is a way to connect and show respect. But the main thing here, we are using energy and vibration to change the pattern. Many cultures do ceremonies, many religious practices have ceremonies. The Buddhists have ceremonies for ancestors, the Hindu have ceremonies after people's deaths, many cultures. And Europe too, if you go back far enough. So these tables here, when we're having classes, we do movements and meditation, and this area isn't used. When we have a ceremony, we set up food and fruit and flowers on these 3 tables. One represents the universe or the source. This table is representing nature, and this is for your ancestors. And you offer food that your ancestors would have liked. People are a little bit scared of the cooking part more than the spiritual part sometimes, but we can help with that. It's 4 ceremonies over a 3-week period, and daily chanting if you can, but as much chanting as you can, which you can do at home or you can come here. But the process, there are many different ancestor branches, and you could do, for example, for your father's family line or your mother's family line. And then this vibration, these ancestors can receive energy through your body and mind. We are not physical beings, we're spiritual beings. So with chanting and vibration, we transmit energy to the ancestors. Most people who are sensitive, when they join the ancestor healing, they feel quite heavy, quite tired, quite emotional, and then after the ceremony, very, very light and clear and peaceful. And after the process is finished, it's not that your ancestors leave you, but their vibration is brighter, so you're more in charge of your own energy. So many people say, oh gosh, how can I just get rid of them? I don't want my ancestors bothering my life. That's the most common thing I hear. But the family is built on love. Life is built on love. Creation is love. So all the family have a good intention for the next generation. But after death, you belong to the static state of energy. I showed you the two diagrams. The physical world is active. The reason you have a physical body is to brighten and change your spirit. Once you leave your physical body behind, your state is fixed. It's very, very hard to change it. That's why helping ancestors is one of the most beautiful things you can do for people who passed away and can't change themselves. And then a lot of people doing the ceremonies, they feel this incredible feeling of gratitude from somewhere, and relief and peace. It's a really, really powerful transformational process. I want to tell you one story, and then we'll come to a close. I had a client who lost her mother. It was 10 years before I met her. I won't go into the accident, but the mother hit her head and she passed away. And this lady came to see me because she was not managing to her work, and she was so exhausted and so drained, and she was getting extreme pain in her head. And she'd been to so many doctors and therapists, and she tried everything, and there was nothing, and no results of anything. So she couldn't find a way to get rid of the head pains, and it was getting more and more difficult, and she was thinking of leaving her job. And I started giving her treatments, and then we talked about her history, and she told me about the accident that her mother had had. And she wasn't at that time very interested in helping all the ancestors she didn't know, which is not uncommon, but she did the ceremony for her mother. And it was really, really touching when it was very beautiful. She prepared the food her mother used to like, and she came to each ceremony. The ceremony is also a kind of process to create peace, show your love for somebody. So she did the ceremony every week, offered the food for her mother, and her energy started to get better. And emotionally, she felt a huge change and healing. But the pain in her head disappeared after the 4 ceremonies. And she couldn't believe the results. And there are lots of stories like this where, I've heard one in Korea that somebody had a terrible knee pain, and they went to all kinds of doctors and to find a solution again. There was no explanation for the problems in their knee. Because of Asian culture, the final thing they did was visit the graves of the ancestors, which, if you know anything about Asian culture, sometimes in the mountains, there's the graves in the right order depending on the generation, a few of you nodding. And they found a tree had fallen over one of the ancestors' graves exactly across the position where the knee would have been. And they tidied up the ancestors' graves and moved the tree, and they didn't have any problems anymore. So there are many, many stories like that. But mainly when you do ancestor healing, it's a devotional, respectful process to help all your family. Helps all the living family. You don't have to bring them all. Just one person can do it. But it lifts the energy from the whole family. You can't change. A lot of people say, will it change my husband? Will it change my mother? But you can't change other people. You can lift the karma and energy from them, and they can change themselves, but they still have their own mind and way of thinking. But I really recommend ancestor healing. as something to create a spiritual foundation. And it really is important to understand from this talk, energy never dies. Our spirit lasts forever. What you do for your spirit is more important than anything else, and the mind is the most powerful tool you have in your life to brighten your spirit. If you are interested in knowing more about ancestor healing, you can book a consultation and we can go through your branches. I'm a bit out of time, so I'm not going to do it today. Did you want to give your... I'm just actually going to call Sophie up here. She's just going to share her story for a few moments and then we'll finish.
Hello. So I first came here last September. I was recovering from I had a serious blood disease, a bit like leukemia, but luckily it wasn't a cancer, but it was a very rare blood disease. My body just stopped producing blood from one day to the next, and the doctors didn't know why. And I was treated in UCLH, so I was treated conventionally. Oh my God, sorry. It's hard talking to all of you. So I was treated conventionally in a hospital, but coming out of that process, I was in remission, but I didn't feel better. I kind of felt still just exhausted, really. And so I came here, I was just looking for something. And I've been looking for a long time. I'd had other illnesses in the past. I'd had chronic fatigue, IBS, digestive issues. I'd never felt particularly energetic. I'm 35 now, but it was from about 18 onwards I've never felt very energetic. So I'd searched always for something, and I tried acupuncture, I did an ayahuasca ceremony with 2 shamans, I did, you name it, therapy. At one point I was seeing 3 therapists because there was the NHS one, and then there was the other one, and then there was anyway, so I saw a lot of different people. And my friend recommended this place, and so I came and I did some treatments, and I immediately felt, I felt the energy when I had the treatment. The first time I had the first treatment was with Master O, who's the person who brought this practice to the West, and I actually just sobbed through the first treatment. It was like something was just lifted and taken away that I just never thought about since. Maybe something to do with guilt, I'm not sure. And so yeah, I had several treatments with Master O. I really loved them, and then I said to him, is there anything else I can do? Because I felt like I wasn't getting a fast enough kind of result, really. And he suggested ancestor healing. And so I had a consultation about it, and I talked about my lines. And I think I was both drawn to it and scared of it. Immediately was my response. So I felt very moved by the idea of helping my ancestors who were no longer with me. It felt like a very beautiful concept, the idea of almost like having your ancestors to dinner, making food for your ancestors felt like a very beautiful concept to me. I'm Jewish, and on 3 out of my 4 grandparents are Holocaust survivors, and then the 4th one has their own issue. The great-grandfather died in the First World War and so on. So there's a lot of pain and trauma in my family, just even within the grandparents I know, so before you even get any further back. So it wasn't a big leap for me to think that the trauma that they suffered, quite a few of them died in concentration camps and died very young, suicides, there was all kinds of stuff. And so it kind of didn't feel like a huge leap to think that their pain was having an impact on me. And also I'd read about things like epigenetics, where they test mice. I don't know if any of you have seen, I think they try and get mice scared of the smell of cherries. They give them an electric shock when they smell cherries. And then the next generation of mice, though they've never had the electric shock, when they smell the cherries, they're frightened, I think is the idea. I'm not a scientist. But so I'd read about that, and I thought the fact that it's sort of been proven that trauma is passed down in DNA led me to think, well, there's something in this, combined with the fact that I got so much out of the treatments. So I kind of just took a leap of faith, not really knowing what it was. And yeah, I had a really extraordinary experience. I think, as Emily was saying, it is a very deeply spiritual experience, and I would say it connected to me, to my spirit, in a way that I'd never felt, deeper than I'd ever felt before. And again, obviously, I tried meditation along with all my other many things. When I was ill for about 18 months, and I meditated a lot. But this was on a much deeper level, and this room on ceremony nights, this room is just extraordinary, the atmosphere and the energy here, and I really felt my ancestors were there, and I felt, exactly as Emily says, I felt heavy, and I felt anxious, and I felt all kinds of things, and for the first time it occurred to me that those feelings, many of which I recognised from my daily life, anxiety, that kind of thing, it occurred to me that those feelings actually maybe were not all from me, that maybe I was on a daily basis experiencing my ancestors' feelings, really. And I started to create in my mind, even through the ceremonies, a little bit of distance, where I'd come in and one ceremony I just felt really reluctant. I just thought, I can't be bothered to do this, I don't know why I'm here, this is really stupid. And I managed to find in my mind the idea that, well, I'm committed to this actually, and I'm here, so why do I feel reluctant? And then I realised, well, maybe that's one ancestor or several ancestors, that's their reluctance and apathy that I'm experiencing. And that distance gave me the confidence to keep going, and made me feel like it was okay that I felt those feelings, and they weren't me. So I would say by the final ceremony, each week it was like, I'd be heavy, 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 and then after the ceremony I'd feel really light. And then the next week I get heavy, 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 and then we get light again. And by the final ceremony, I felt an actual physical weight lift from my stomach during the ceremony. And I felt kind of euphoric, really. I felt this kind of clarity and lightness. And I would say that the feeling has remained of just distance from my patterns, that my patterns aren't me, and that, yeah, of course I still get anxious and I still have difficulties and stress and all the rest of it, but I'm not kind of right up in the stress. There's a sort of a space, and I can do things, I can chant, or I can come here and connect, and I immediately feel a very profound difference. So yeah, I mean, for me it's been genuinely life-changing, and I've been through quite a few life-changing experiences prior to this. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think I'm going to bring the talk to a close, and hopefully you can stay around a bit and have a drink and something to eat and find out a bit more. Those of you who haven't been in here before, and we would like to invite you to come back to have an energy assessment and a consultation about your ancestral patterns. Now, I understand for many of you the subject matter tonight might be so huge. You know, I've covered so many areas, and it's quite a lot to take in. And when you leave this place, it's interesting when you're here. You think, well, you know, you go back to Oxford Circus, it's going to feel very, very strange, and it's a lot to think about. But what I would say is that people who come to us, and as I said, I've been doing this quite a long time, are people from all walks of life, all ages, all cultures, all backgrounds, and they're not necessarily people on a spiritual path or who feel energy. Feeling energy, I want to just touch on this one. A lot of people very, very interested in feeling energy, but energy is just love and peace. If you feel comfortable somewhere, if you feel happy somewhere, that's energy. Feeling energy sensationally and physically is not that important. People have a different constitution. So the main thing is that you do something for your own heart and mind. I hope you can think really deeply about the concepts I've brought up tonight. I don't expect people to jump straight into ancestor healing. Of course, you can start ancestor healing whenever you like if you're ready. And if you don't feel quite ready for that, you can come and try a class, try the meditation, or you can come and have an energy treatment and assessment. Thank you very, very much for coming. It's very hot in this room. I'm sorry if you're all overheating. And yeah, please come and have a drink. And there are lots of members and practitioners around, so talk to us and take some flyers and some information. And yeah, come back again. Thank you.